My name is Joanna Virginia Jackson. I was born and raised in Selma, Alabama. I now live in Florida and have been the caretaker of the Jackson Museum since I founded it in 2014. My parents were Dr. and Mrs. Sullivan and Richie Jean Sherrod Jackson. My parents met Dr. King in Montgomery at the home of a relative of my mother's. He initially came to the house when he would have speaking engagements at Selma University, which is located one block from my parents' home. So in 1964, as he began to plan the Selma to Montgomery March, my parents' house was just a natural place for him to stay. My mother never knew who was going to be at our front door. Some of the people that came there because Dr. King was there, Cesar Chavez, Dr. Ralph Bunch. But 50 years before Uncle Martin lived in that house with my parents and I, Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois held fireside chats in that house on economic sustainability, on education, on religion, on community building. As I grew older, I began to understand the complexities of what was going on in that house. And what I realized was that Uncle Martin and others were changing the world. There are principles, and those principles of justice and peace and freedom are principles that this country was founded on. They are principles that the social justice movement and the civil rights movement that still hold those very same principles very dear. The third bedroom in the home. This is the room in which Dr. King and other leaders booted up for the 4-day march. They went in that room, they had a prayer session before going to Brown Chapel Church to lead the march. The phone in the Jackson home is the phone that Dr. King used as he talked with President Johnson. President Johnson would call into my parents' home and they would have marathon conversations. This is the room that Dr. King was sitting in the night that President Johnson addressed the nation about the Voting Rights Act. There was a photographer embedded in the house that night by the name of Frank Dandridge that captured this iconic picture of Dr. King and his emotions as he watched the president address the nation and give what is now known as the We Shall Overcome speech. We get people in the Jackson house that ask me the current state of America. They say, "What do you think is going to happen?" Well, I can tell you this. This country has always, at its lowest moment, been able to right-side itself. Love will always win over hate, and peace will always win over war. Even if you are not an activist, you need to be active. Even if you are not a believer, you need to believe in something. Always seek the truth. It's amazing how that house continues to welcome people from all over the world. My mother gave me life, but she also gave me another incredible gift, and that is when she wrote her book, which is my family's official memoirs. In that book, The House by the Side of the Road, the Selma Civil Rights Movement, my mother mentions Joan Baez for her tireless work in spreading the message of the civil rights movement through her career in music. And again, that house continues to welcome people that have been in the struggle for so many years. Students from a history class at Auburn University with Dr. Bernard Lafayette, who was one of the students in an organization called SNCC. And that really is what this house is for. It continues to welcome people that are dedicated to justice and peace and freedom. One day, he asked me, "Joanna, as you grow, promise Uncle Martin something." And I said, "What is that?" And he simply said, "Always touch others, so you will be touched." And here we are, over 50 years later. My parents are gone. Dr. King is gone. But this house is still welcoming others. and we're still touching others so we can be touched. And that's what a social movement is all about.